the history being here, driving through Norwich, coming to Norwich, realizing that what was built back in, Jim's talking about when Topics was here back 30, 40, 50 years ago. We saw an idea of maybe rethinking the downtown from a transportation standpoint. So what we're going to show you tonight is some of those ideas. I'm looking for your feedback on them. We presented to the council back in April, March. We've been working with Jim and Amanda and the team on sitting on some changes made to the concepts. But we really want to get your feedback on it. So we're going to do a presentation, as you said, about 25 minutes, go through what we've done, show what we're proposing. And these are all just concepts. These aren't anything that's funded, any design. It's stuff that we've developed through the process of the project that Jim had outlined. So Dan's going to start most of the presentation. I'm going to come in at the back end and talk about some of the more major improvements on the west side of the project area. Dan?
Thanks, Joe. So, like Joe said, my name is Daniel Amstutz. I'm a senior transportation planner with VHB, and I'm going to go through the first 15 or so slides to sort of talk about, just give a very quick 5 minutes on where we've been, and also, sort of 5 minutes on, how we got to this point, and then spend, the bulk of the presentation is going to be about the concepts, the ideas, the changes that we were suggesting, their potential for Norwich and its downtown in particular. So again, we're going to give a quick study overview, what we've already done over the last year, and then really get into the analysis of the potential improvements, sort of the principles that we took to get to that point, the vision that we took from the scope of work and what we were told from the advisory committee, from the city, from the COG, to look at how to make changes to the transportation system in downtown Norwich to make it work better for everyone. And then we're going to go over some of the major things that you'll see in this bigger plan that some of you may have already seen with these maps that are on the tables up here. We do have a project website that we've had going for the last year, where you can find a lot more information. You can find the presentations that we've done before, the advisory committee meetings that we've had, and the notes from that. So everything is on that website. And just to quickly go through what the goals were again from the outset, we were looking at, it's probably a little hard to see here, so I'll just quickly read them. Improve livability, mobility, and access to essential services. Create safe routes to the waterfront, Howard T. Brown Park, the transportation center, the Norwich Marina, and downtown. And develop alternatives to current road configuration and traffic flows. So we're going to talk a lot about what those potential alternatives are. And it's part of the city of Norwich's efforts to provide streets that are safe and accessible for all users, including pedestrians, cyclists, motorists, and transit users of all ages and abilities. So the study limits are essentially over by West Main Street, North High Street, and North Main Street, where that splits. Where the West Side Boulevard and the West Main Street bridges split or come together, and all the way to the east, where the other side, where the East Main Street Route 2 crosses the Chappaqua River, essentially, and some of it goes up a little bit further north over by City Hall here as well, was the area we were looking at. What's that? Unfortunately, it doesn't work on this screen here, what we have. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't really see that for what we have here. So I apologize. I'll try to be more specific when it comes to pointing with my finger. So just an overview, again, as Jim mentioned, it's led by the COG, but also very closely with the city of Norwich. We have an advisory committee that includes city staff, the COG, Connecticut DOT, and CDC as well. We've had a couple of public meetings, where we had a public meeting in October. We had a public survey as well, and we did some existing conditions reporting, and also looked at future conditions, really looking at traffic and traffic growth over a period of time, and did all of that in preparation of creating these vision and potential concepts. So, and we've done a lot of public engagement, as Bridget from VN Engineers, our sub-consultant, has been doing a wonderful job. We had a couple of pop-up meetings that we had at the end of last year or during the fall. We've had our first public meeting in October and the second one today. And we also had a public survey, as I mentioned. So we've done a couple of other things the last few months, such as meeting with our advisory committee, meeting with the city council. We did a walk around last month to sort of give more information out to folks on the concepts. And there's also going to be a tactical engagement event that's going to they're actually going to do some painting on the street next week at Cliff Street and Main Street, which we'll hear about a little bit more later on. So just very quickly, again, we went over existing conditions data. We collected data on traffic conditions. This is, part of the process of understanding what's happening on the ground. We did traffic analysis and found a couple of the intersections or, have difficulty when it comes to congestion. And we found out different things like pedestrians are really overrepresented in traffic injuries. So that's the kind of detail that we're looking at. And then in the future conditions, really look at the traffic growth, developments that are ongoing or that are in the future that may be happening, or different changes of use that are happening, such as a new hotel that's down the street, and sort of mapping out what is going to be sort of the congestion issue in the future. And it's going to be at sort of the same intersections that we looked at before. So really getting into this part of it, just before we get to the actual concepts, just again quickly going over what our vision is and how we looked at this, the overall principles, and using the goals of the study and the scope and what we heard. Complete streets is a big piece of this, and complete streets being, streets that will work for everybody, for people that are walking, for people that are biking, for motorists as well. But that may mean, we need to slow down traffic to make it better for people who walk and bike in order to cross the street. We're trying to improve safety for everybody. That's a really big piece of this. Creating more bike and pedestrian space, better crossings for people, again, improving access to the waterfront and the park, lowering traffic speeds, but still keeping the traffic flowing through the downtown, and trying to improve operations at those really difficult intersections, particularly the one at Town Street and Viaduct Road, and also Main Street and Viaduct Road. But really, some of the proposals we have here are to make circulation better for everybody. And there's a lot of really excellent potential for people to walk and bike around downtown Norwich. It really has a lot of great walkable form, those close together buildings, those sort of ease of walking from one place to another. Not a lot of people are doing it right now because there's a lot of sort of barriers to do that. Improving safety for pedestrians is a big, again, is an important part of this, and improving those crossings for people. Lowering traffic speeds so we don't have people speeding through downtown. It's no longer a pass-through place, but trying to make it a place where people will come to and stay. So moving on to the vision itself. So some really high-level notes just before we get into it is that we've done preliminary traffic modeling on these improvements, on these changes. It shows that the concepts we're going to talk about, they are feasible. They have been reviewed by the city and our advisory committee, and things, if they are eventually implemented, the traffic patterns may change, so that people may start going in different directions or going on different roads, in order to move around differently. So, but we do again encourage any questions or comments about about these concepts, whether during the Q&A session or afterwards. We really want to hear from you. Yes. Okay.
Just do a quick comment.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, so we're going to be talking about it's a little bit grainy on this picture, but we've got West Side Boulevard here. We've got West Main Street here. We have Washington Street here, which turns into Chelsea Harbor Drive, and then Water Street here, which goes this way. And we're having some arrows on the maps to show you as well. Main Street, Church Street, and then I think this turns into Viaduct Road. So just to give you an idea of where we are on that, and I'll show you on the next map as well. So, okay, so this is really the east side of downtown. We have the Franklin Square roundabout here. We have Main Street going through here, and we have Viaduct Road coming through here. And where we are. City Hall is just up here to the upper left. So on this side of the downtown, so I'm going to talk through some of the things that we have on here. So we have this particular intersection at the far eastern end of the downtown has a lot of congestion issues, and the ways that, one of the ways that can be addressed is by putting in a right turn lane here from Viaduct Road onto Main Street, since that's one of the major movements, and that's where a lot of congestion is coming from. And that would require making changes to this bridge and widening this bridge in order to make that work. But understanding this is a long-term vision, a long-term plan, that is one of the ways to address what's going on at this intersection. We're also looking at, we've heard a lot of concerns about the crosswalk that's at the post office here across from the YMCA. And, we would be looking at putting in some curb extensions there and also at some of these other crosswalks that are along the way so that they can improve the pedestrian crossings there. And also trying to incorporate some of the bicycle mobility. We're putting shared lane markings here to give people direction and also to help indicate that, this is where people can be biking. It's, better to be biking on the main street than some of the other streets. And we also have incorporated bicycle lanes that will be going on Viaduct Road as well. There's also some changes that we'll be looking at Cliff Street, which really comes in very quickly at an angle to Main Street here. And the idea is that we try to tighten that up so that comes more of a T angle when you come down on Cliff Street, so that turn is a lot safer. You can't just shoot right through the stop sign that's there right now. I'm going to talk about a few other things that I need to click through, and then I'm going to talk about the upper left portion. So again, narrowing the intersection at Cliff Street and Main Street, curb extensions to the crosswalks. So let's see, the bike lanes on Viaduct Road, which I mentioned, and the right turn lane. And then so on the upper left-hand side, I'm showing a red box. I'm going to expand that out to show what that looks like. And I'll just jump to these ones. So this is actually an idea that came from the city in terms of, so we're up here at City Hall. And so this is the intersection down with Broadway and Bath. And the idea is to sort of shift some of the way that these islands work in the middle of here and actually make Bath Street two-way street. It's currently one way going away from Franklin Street, and to make this two-way to really make it easier for people to get around so that they don't have to go all the way around the circle in order to get from one place to another. But the city has already made some changes to make a curb extension here and with this parking. And the idea would be to, instead of having this 2 lanes, it would be 1 lane that would be angled parking here. You could pick up 1 extra parking space with this and some additional, again, space for people to walk and to have trees or other sort of street furniture out here. So that would also, making this in 1 lane, make it slower, make it, less sort of a speedway to get from one place to another. So, and then again, revising this intersection, and then again, we look at this, there wouldn't really be much, there wouldn't be a net parking change here. 1 of these spaces here, maybe move over to here, but overall, you'd need the same amount of parking that you have there now. So this is sort of on the far northern end of the study area. This is over at Franklin and Boswell. So I'm going to zoom in on this here, which shows this intersection. I'll show you what it looks like now, and I'll show you the concept that we have for that. So currently, you have approaching from Franklin Street. So this is Oak and Boswell. So you have this island in the middle, and you have sort of two different ways you can go, which would be kind of confusing and create sort of a confusing area where people were likely to get into a collision or have conflicts. And so essentially we'd be looking at tightening that up so that you really you reduce the number of lanes, reduce the amount of space that you have for people to be able to, so that they really just have 1 option to get around instead of 2 options to move through here, so that you open up the space for people that are walking, for the sidewalks, and also this can be converted to a 4-way stop instead of having a signalized intersection there. Because of the complicated nature of it right now, it has that signal, but this way you can actually remove that signal so that it makes the operation simpler for this and for the city as well, for in terms of maintenance. So moving on to more towards the center of downtown, so I put the different arrows you can see, so here's Main Street, it goes westbound only. This point, Water Street, that goes westbound only. Chelsea Harbor Drive comes eastbound, and then Courthouse Square here continues to the north. So what we're looking at is actually making changes to the way that the streets operate through here. And the idea, so the ones that have been changed are now in this blue. Instead of one-way yellow, I made it the two-way blue here, so that Water Street would actually be made two-way. So you convert it from a two-way road going one way to one lane in each direction. Part of this also, and I'll zoom in on this part of this as well, Chelsea Harbor Drive. This will have traffic going both ways on Water Street, and where Route 2 would go would also be on Water Street. And it would really convert the Chelsea Harbor Drive area to more of an area that gets you to the park and gets you to these businesses here, as well as to the parking garage, as opposed to being just a through speedway, as is right now. So 3 or 4 lanes, just going one direction. Very easy for people to just speed right through there or past the park. Let's go back in. Let's see. So again, Water Street becomes two-way. One of the other major things with this is that Chelsea Harbor Drive would no longer come through actually to connect with Courthouse Square with Water Street. And this really simplifies this intersection. Part of the issue, one of the issues with this intersection is that there's a lot of queuing that comes and backs up around the corner here very frequently. And this would, with some of the other changes, we're actually looking at if we could remove a couple of the, because this intersection gets very congested, partly because there's so many approaches to it. I believe there's 6 approaches to it. You've got Viaduct Road, Laurel Hill Avenue, you've got Water Street that comes in here, and also these 2 smaller side streets. And they all need to have a part of the signal so that when they come here, all the other traffic stops so that they can go. If we're able to remove those from the signal operation and have them go one way away from there, that from this intersection, it simplifies the signal significantly, since you don't have people coming into the intersection from those areas, causing delays for all the other approaches. But by doing this also, if there are queues that come back, you're going to be coming back towards the Market Street intersection as opposed to going around the corner here on Chelsea Harbor Drive. So that, that will help with getting people to come around. If they come around here, looking at putting in a traffic signal here so that people would be able to turn left or right out of here, or people coming from the park can come up here and turn left or turn right. Then make it easier to just find your way around downtown. We heard that a lot. You have to go one way this way and one way that way in order to figure out where you're going. This also makes it a lot easier for people to get around. So just again, to zoom in on that, part of the, becomes two-way, and then potentially some new access to Howard T. Brown Park. So I think this is where I'm going to turn it over to Joe, who's going to talk about the 3 options with the bridges on the west side of downtown. Clicker. I don't know. But you had it.
And then clicker something. Okay. So Dan talked about some of the changes that we made that we're proposing to downtown, on the east side of downtown. And what we're basically doing is taking those one-way streets and converting them back to two-way Water Street. So Water Street is two-way. So what does that mean in terms of this part of the project, the west part of the project? I have my clicker here somewhere. I guess I have it. Dan, you want to look at the slides?
Sure.
Sorry, I had a clicker there and it's place this map that I'm reading there. So talking about this part of the project, we know this intersection here, Washington Square, has issues. We've identified that in conditions, has issues for not congestion so much as crashes. A lot of crash history there, not as much congestion issue because we have so many lanes there. Basically, we have all those lanes that are happening. We have a one-way, another one-way. Norwich is a city of one-ways. One-way West Main Street coming here. one way on this bridge, go this direction. So we have it one way. So as I mentioned in the early part of the presentation, we're looking at trying to envision it. We started downtown. Said that all makes sense. That makes sense from a traffic flow standpoint. And here we said, does this make sense? Does it work? It does work from a capacity standpoint. It does work from a capacity standpoint, but we do know there's crash history here. We do know that the freeway overhead signs give you that feeling of you're on a expressway. And we don't want that. We want this to be a city roadway. So in that thought process, got us here. This is the Route 82 project to the west. That's the other DOT project that I guess has been going through process. We did not coordinate with them. We knew what they were doing, but we said, what's happening this part of downtown? We know the transportation center right here on Hollyhock Island here. We know the marina, the new owners over here. We know the potential for redevelopment over here this year. We know Bangor's Boat Yards here. We know all that's happening. And we sort of looking at what can we do to fix this intersection, first of all, and maybe reconsider the traffic flows in the town. Like Dan talked about, the east side of downtown, we think that's a good plan. Here, we have, Dan talked about those ideas. Here we have like three options that we kind of talked about. So we started with option one.
Option one.
So option one. So we keep our two bridges. Okay. Change Washington Square from a 4 or 5 lane signalized intersection. Traffic signals cause crashes. Traffic signals cause crashes. They cause rear-end crashes. They also can cause T-bone crashes. They can cause ankle crashes. People violate traffic control. So we looked at this intersection and said, the roundabout go there. We started with success of Franklin Square. I was here 5 years ago with the mayor and others with Franklin Square. And that's where we started with the whole idea of recirculating downtown. That's where we started. So we looked at that here. We looked at where these two streets converge. That wasn't necessarily a congestion issue there, but from a traffic flow standpoint, how do you get Main Street, 32, you come around, okay, can we change that? Then we also said, this freeway section, by doing a roundabout, when you eliminate, when you go from a signal to a roundabout, it gets skinnier. Okay? You don't need as many lanes, because you're not stopping traffic, sitting there waiting for your light. That's not happening. So with roundabouts, you may have a larger footprint here, but the approaches are always smaller. So that gives us all this real estate along here, all this green you see here. There's no pavement, there's no 5 lanes there. By doing those two things, that helps us. Makes this two-way. But then Joe, what about this bridge? So our crazy idea, if you want to call it, our idea is to take this bridge over and get rid of vehicular traffic. Shelburne Falls in Massachusetts has, they call it a bridge of flowers. We turn the bridge into a tourist attraction. Our idea is similar. You get rid of cars and trucks on that bridge. You make that bridge for pedestrians, for bicyclists, for events, for things you have 46 feet of pavement in purpose. A lot to work with. So by doing these two roundabouts here and here, we can take the volume that's going one way here at high speed, 2, 3 lanes, and here, going up here, and put it all on this road here on West Main Street, and allows us to remove this from the system and use this bridge for pedestrians, for bicyclists. And we kind of reimagine that. Get down here also, the marina. We put two-way access to the marina development, to the theaters, to the transportation center from downtown, which is what we need to have. Just get there now, from downtown, how do you get there? If you're walking, you can walk there. But it's not a great walk. You go here, come around here, turn here. Or you do a left turn, U-turn, as some people do. I've done that as well. Right? That's how you get there from downtown. So this gives you that two-way access to the transportation center, to the Hollyhock Island from downtown. And we changed the intersection, it's still signalized, but it's a T intersection instead of being 4 lanes. Okay, so we're trying to consolidate where we can, to reduce the movements and make things more efficient. What's next slide? So there's the idea, there's the vision that we have, for that.
All right. Yep.
So this is the idea. So this is looking this direction. You stand over here and you're looking this direction, looking west. Okay. And what we're showing you is there's a transportation center right there. See right there off to the left, looking down towards Green 2. And so is it crazy? Don't be crazy. It's but you need to have a vision of transformation. You're trying to transform something, you need a vision. That's where this came from. And so you can have vendors, you can have a cycle traffic, you can have sidewalk, you can allow the emergency vehicles on there if needed. Okay, that's obviously a consideration when you do something like this and you speak to the fire department, police department. Oh, now I can't get over here, you know, that I can't get here. You're going this way. But if they have to, they could use that bridge for emergency vehicle access. So that's kind of where we started with this project. We kind of looked at downtown, looked here, and that's where it. I guess the points. Oh, I can use this pointer too. Yeah, like that. I can use a pointer. There you go. All right, so that's option 1. Okay, so we did this, presented the TAC to the city, and yeah, okay. Met with the TAC and some ideas, some of the other ideas, and meet with the TAC, Jeff, the Transportation Advisory Committee for the project, the council, the city, DOT. And they had said, well, you know what? One idea was, we like that idea, okay? Like that idea, but as in any project, you look at ideas. And I've always wanted to draw these up, how crazy they are, draw them up. And I don't know why it's doing that. So another alternative was to make this bridge 2-way. Make this, so right there at the end of Bridge of Flowers, still do a bike lane, still do sidewalks, don't have Bridge of Flowers there. But a third roundabout here, right? Sure, you want crazy roundabouts, you get 1, 2, 3, you get 4 over here, you get 1 downtown. They work. Just real quick roundabouts. They are the safest form of traffic control for cars, pedestrians. The single lanes are safer, they're safer, they're fast. So put that to this 2-way, okay. So this becomes a cul-de-sac. This, we break this off from a flow standpoint. We have this as our Bridge of Flowers, let's call it that, right? So instead of being a whole bridge there, we do that over here to some extent, a little different over here. So you can't go through. So Baker's Boatyard, you come here, you pull in here, a marina, pull here, the transportation center here. That actually don't stay the same, but you can't get there from here this way with a vehicle. You have to go around to get there. That's the one thing that is, in terms of access, it does change that access. It does. But it gives you this big Bridge of Flowers over here to some extent, maybe a little smaller version of it with some landscaping, some benches, a pedestrian plaza. Okay. But it does cut you off access here. Pros and cons, certainly makes this big intersection simpler as a round, makes it much simpler. Makes it puts one over here, okay? We keep this one over here, as I said before, so that's option 2. By the way, all the 3 options have this area here of open space. That is something that we saw as an opportunity, okay? If you do this, you don't need to just wrap around here. You can still keep this with the fire department there, you still keep it here for all the access or cold storage, but you don't need to bring it over here, but you now can do this here. Okay, I lose anybody? You got it? So option one is that bridge is taken over by pedestrian bicyclists, right? Vehicles are gone. Okay, it's the first vehicle. This is 2-way. That's option 1. Option 2 is this bridge is 2-way. This is 2-way a little bit here, then this is their small option 1 over here. Okay. So what's the third option? Third option is, you know what? Make them both 2-way. Okay. seems like a natural, progress of option 1, 2, and 3. So this takes the idea one step further and concerns of access here. All right, so we're two-way bridge. All because we have the roundabouts here, we can do that. We still have sidewalks, we still have here, some bike lanes, so maybe it's not the best option per se for all users. Doesn't give me any real bunch of flowers or landscape features, but it gives you, definitely improves your mobility, access. Still have open space, still have that here, still have that here. So it provides all that, but it gives us two-way access on, we still have the benefits of the roundabouts, okay? So the benefits of roundabouts here, do that, and all three options work with everything that Dan was presenting on each side. What I did forget to talk about, going back, is, I think it's Pat's idea, transportation center. We can connect to it. So the Bridge of Flowers, Bridge of Roses, Rose City, Bridge of Roses. You can park here, because how do you get there? You go walk, sure, you can park downtown. You can also park in the transportation center. And access the Bridge of Roses now. Those little walkway structure, that lets you access this. This could be, Shelburne Falls, Massachusetts, is a tourist attraction. And it's beautiful, when the flowers blooming. So that's what I want to make sure I mention that. And we had some other things here that we put in. But all of those are three options. Again, option 1, this bridge is taken over by bikes and pedestrians. And this is two-way here, 2 roundabouts. There's our dream, if you will. Those are roses, right? Those aren't hydrangeas, those are roses, right? They're roses, okay. Option 2, this flip again. Make a small bridge roads over here, but go with 3 roundabouts, okay? Option 3 is 3 roundabouts, we're doing 2 ways and all of these. Okay. So that's the kind of envision that this wasn't our idea. Option 2 wasn't our idea. But with any kind of project, you have everyone with ideas reviewing this and say, you know what, let me just do it different. You know, Joe, Dan, Bridget, it's like, oh, maybe it's a little different. So we are, and we tested it from an analysis standpoint. It looks good from an analysis standpoint. So yeah, it does look kind of wow. You know, either one of these. Yes, it's a whole different take on traffic control. And so we're looking at re-envisioning downtown. This is big. I mean, it's just transformative what we're proposing here. Changing the downtown. And then this as well. So we're trying to get rid of this freeway scale infrastructure. You have this big overhead signs and bringing back the mobility of pedestrians and bicyclists, what we call vulnerable users, to the downtown, to the western part of the city, and over here as well. This is obviously an opportunity as well. I think I finished with that. So this is some idea. We went through all this. We identified some key intersections of problems. We have, and this plan is a 20-year plan. Could be shorter, it can be. But we're looking at a revised downtown for traffic flow, City Hall. Start all of a sudden trying to sort of roundabout. That's the idea of roundabout. That's what kind of start off this idea here. He said, well, you know what? Look at everything else here. And by the road, you got this system that is through traffic. Get from up there, like I used to do on teenager, come through the city. You go to the beaches, down to the casinos. We're revisiting this and this together. And it can be done separately. This can be done by itself, it can be done by itself as well. So with that, I'll conclude our presentation and up to Jim.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Dan. I'd like to ask Bobby Burboy if she'd talk about the demonstration project we mentioned at the outset. I know Ms. Burboy has to leave soon. Would you like me to bring you the microphone, ma'am? Okay. Bobby is with the Main Street Accelerator Program, and they've been working hard with the City of Norwich Public Works Department to outline how this project's gonna work, and she'll tell you the details.
I also have some flyers if anybody would like some. But basically, my name is Bobby Rayboy, and I'm the director of Global City Norwich, which is a program out of the University Development Corporation. And we began a program called the Accelerator, which is run by Connecticut Main Street, that works with different, cities all across Connecticut to build up their economics and businesses. And so they put out this program and they said, choose a challenge in your town and we'll help you work through it. So we chose perception. And then in choosing that, we determined that it was like cleanliness and lighting and safety, that were the big problems, and signage. And so we narrowed that down to signage. And, while we were figuring all this out, Bridget, who is with DHB Engineers. Yes, she also reached out and said, hey, we're trying to do some taxable organism demonstration in Norwich alongside the mobility study to show that we can make these really quick, short-term changes and they can be effective for the long term. And so now we're painting a crosswalk at Cliff Street and Main Street by Otis Library, and we'll be putting books and trying to make it safer and just bring some vibrancy to that area. And that's what this flyer is.
On the map.
Right there. And that's what these flyers are for, so you can sign up either to have your book featured, or you can sign up as a painter to paint. And, the other paper that I have tells you about the Main Street Accelerator project that we're doing, and has some photos on it of what that project is for in terms of signage across Norwich. Does anyone have questions? Yes, so, the painting will start on June 11th and 12th from 9 AM to 4 PM. And then if we don't finish then, we'll revisit and choose some other days to paint.
Thanks, Bobby.
Yeah, thank you.
Want to just circulate it? And people want to raise your hand and, we'll get into it, so great. So, I told, hello, Mary. Jack, thank you. I told you earlier that this is your project, so we want to hear from you. While Bobby's handing that out, I would like to say that we would welcome you to come up to the podium, or I will bring you the microphone, or you can speak without a microphone. Though we are recording the meeting, I hope you don't mind, because we're going to put it up on our website tomorrow. I hope tomorrow. We'll try tomorrow, later this week. And it can be available for people that weren't able to attend. So is there, Mayor, do you want to say anything first? You're the highest ranking local official.
Thank you. I appreciate all the work that's being done. A couple of things come to mind. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you chose option one, the city would assume responsibility for the bridge.
We don't know that for a fact, but there's a good chance that DOT would want to convey it to the city. That's just the best guess.
So the mechanism to replace the bridge when its life use expires is on the city. Cities are not normally applying for federal funds to build bridges. We just don't do that. So that's a concern. I just mentioned that. My memories of the ITC, there was a proposed phase two, which was actually a rail station for pedestrian use on the Central Vermont Railroad on the West Canal, and that's an area that's pretty much not offered as green space, so you could still do that. And there are efforts that are investigating the passenger rail back in this area. I think that's years down the road, but I don't think we should lose sight of that as well. I actually like the fact that option three now includes addressing issues throughout downtown. It's a complete assessment of what we were looking for back in 2012 when we dedicated the ITC. And there was a representative from the Federal Highway Transportation Division that came with us. We spoke about that, and it wasn't emphasized tonight, but expansion of the waterway, Brown Park. Whether that's included, I'm gonna call that orange, is that the bike lane?
Yes, that sidewalk and the dirt place.
Okay,
There's bike lanes, and then part of the parking lot might be rededicated to the park. Used as parking.
that was one of the issues, this aspect here, dead ending this, that's new, and it is interesting, something to consider. Anything we can do to expand the waterfront through the center, I think it's really important to the public, to the people. In our efforts with the marina now and with the marina towers, we're looking at expanding public access as much as we can. I think that's critically important. I also believe it's required because when we use the federal dollars to put stone for Barrington, and I happened to work on a state grant at that time back in the 80s. Unless you covered everything, public access is required on that site, the arena itself. So those are just a couple of things I mentioned, but it continues to evolve, and I think that's good. You're listening to people, you're coming up with other ideas, so thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Great. People like to come up, or would you like me to bring you the mic? Anybody have any good ideas? Raise it.
Stay right here. Hi. I just want to thank everybody for clearly a lot of hard work and a lot of energy for the vision of Norwich, and I appreciate that. I think what the mayor just said was really interesting about public access, but my major reaction is on option one. I'd be interested to see how Shelburne Falls maintains their bridge, but it is a narrower bridge as well versus this seems longer and wider and just much larger. I'd also say that Shelburne Falls does not have vendors on their bridge, and I think about that curved area where that public art is and that circle, wondering what the use of that is, and maybe that's where a food truck could go and then have access to that green space. So just thinking about that, thinking about the flowers themselves, there are, thinking about who's going to maintain and have a garden club, or just really pull that together with their riding of flowers, as roses bloom in June. And also Norwich has a beautification committee that hasn't, I believe, really taken off. Maybe we can do more with that, because I think part and parcel of this is and I'd be happy to be on a volunteer group, just because picking up trash, people just litter constantly and trimming and all of that perception of the city too, I think is important to address too. And thank you so much.
Hi, my name's Linda Theodore. When I first looked at the plans, I preferred option number 2 because the Bridge of Roses connected to the park. But then listening to the presentation, I learned that Bridge of Roses in option number 1 would connect to the transportation center. And I think that's very important. Plus, it would reduce the number of roundabouts to 2. I personally am not afraid of roundabouts, but a lot of people here are.
My question and my comments are, what is the funding source? What is the time frame? And once these projects are completed, as the mayor so eloquently pointed out, whose responsibility is it going to be to maintain these? The city of Norwich is a distressed community. We don't have any money here. We don't have any money right now for anything. So I'm concerned, and my other concern is that how does this fit into the Route 82? If there's a lot of moving parts. But having said all that, I've lived in Norwich for 20 years, and one thing I have learned is that you can't get from here to there. It is, I don't know who designed this in the beginning, but let's not make the same mistakes twice. So, so if you could answer my questions about the parking. That's my primary.
You had some great comments and a great question. So I'm going to go to the question last. I'm going to start with your comment at the end. You can't get there from here. Joe referenced, an earlier reference I had, I think, before the meeting, before people came in. I was talking to someone about a federally funded program back in the late seventies, early eighties called TOPICS. And I can't remember right now what that acronym stood for. It was Traffic Operation Program to Improve Capacity and Safety. And many cities took advantage of federal dollars that were offered to take a look at their downtown circulation systems. If you think of Rotten, New London, and Norwich, there's a lot of one-way streets through their more densely populated areas like downtown Norwich. Norwich had a topics program back then. I've seen it. Can't find it right now, but we knew it existed. The thought then was to get people quickly through the urban centers to wherever else they were going. We know better now. We don't want speeding traffic through downtown. We want traffic to go slowly and safely and respect pedestrians and cyclists. Maybe stop at our businesses. Maybe people are living downtown. We're going back to the way it used to be. So that's a great comment. And as Joe said, Joe at the outset said, one of the early thoughts that the city of Norwich had, and that we made a mission statement for this, is how do we make traffic safe? How do we make mobility through downtown work better and respect all modes? I'm going to get to your question. That's something the consultants been tasked with to do. We still have months ahead of us in terms of creation of a final report. They are supposed to come up with order of magnitude figures as to the cost of the various improvements. So there'll be cost estimates, very generalized cost estimates for everything east of Washington Square, because that doesn't change in any of the options, other than where it connects to the three concepts that were presented last year. The consultant is also supposed to identify for us potential funding sources, and we're in a particularly good time right now if you're an urban center who wants to do transportation improvements. There are federal dollars available, there are even some state dollars available. I'm going to let Joe or Dan talk to that because they probably know the specifics better than I. In terms of maintenance, if a lot of what's being proposed, as Joe mentioned, will eliminate a couple of traffic signals. It'll actually save the city money when you eliminate a traffic signal and make a three-way or four-way stop, because you don't have to maintain the electronics. You don't have to maintain the signal. You don't have to replace the lights when they burn out. I'm not sure if you've done any or given any thought to how some of the improvements might save the city money. But the main thing we worry about is if the state were to, if option one were chosen, and if the state said, oh, sure, we'll let you do that. Remember, that's a state route right now. If they said, yes, you can do that, my best guess is they're going to say, but city, you're going to own it. I don't know that for a fact. The state of Connecticut DOT is represented on our technical advisory committee. We're meeting with them next week. We'll make sure we ask them that question. So, but Joe, could you address the types of funding that might be available?
Let me just, before I get to that, remind me to get to it. The mayor mentioned the bridge, take over bridge, you're concerned about that. There are federal funds to pay for bridge replacements for municipalities. They have the state fund. So I want to make sure it's clear that, yeah, if the city takes bridge over, the DOT does say that. Say, wow, great plan. We love it. Take the bridge. It's a newer bridge, newer meaning it's not 50 years old. I forget what the rating is, but if at some point in the future, the bridge needs replacement, there are programs from the state and the federal government to help municipalities with bridge replacement. So just want to be clear. It's not like the bridge and you own that bridge for life. You can get funding for bridges through the state and through the federal government, number one. Number two, the cost, you did that. What you're seeing here to the east, relatively low cost, meaning infrastructure wise, this is big stuff. Round, okay, we know that's $1 million, okay? That's big physical improvements. Downtown, we're taking over Chelsea. We're converting Water Street. That's pain. There's not a lot of physical work there. Yeah, there's some work over here, Beach work over here in front of the library here, and the YMCA, and the post office, and the hotel over here. There's some work we're proposing over here, which is kind of substantial, some retaining wall work over here, up there about as well. My point is that these aren't, this part here isn't substantial infrastructure improvements that are multi-million dollars of, could it be a lot? Yeah, I mean, there's some curb work here, but I'm just saying from an overall order of magnitude, these options versus here are greater in cost than downtown. That's the beauty of this. And we've seen a lot of projects, urban areas, convert one way, two way. It's pretty cheap. It's turning parking meters around, turning signs around, obviously restriping, maybe some curb work, there's some signal work. Jim mentioned the signals. So yes, for a traffic signal versus a roundabout, you're not maintaining the signal. I mean, you're replacing that. Signals are expensive these days. They're $500,000 each now for construction. So you build something like a roundabout, then it's only pavement you're really worried about. Now, in terms of funding, Jim's right. Now is, well, before I get there, 382, that project is ahead of this by a couple of years, I think. Okay, at least they're in design. They're about to go into, they're in design. So they're like ready to design that and build that a year, maybe. We are not, this project is, we're to start it 3, 4, 5 years ago. Okay, this is the conceptual study phase. Then we go to a phase where we identify, more definitive designs and go for funding. What is that funding? As Jim mentioned, there's a lot, right now, this is in a generation, transportation funding is at its peak in a generation, in my 34 years. This is the best time to be chasing money from not only state, DOT, but the federal highway. This is the time, and it's going to be this time in the next 5 years. You heard about the IIJA, the Investment Infrastructure Jobs Act, that exact acronym, the bipartisan infrastructure law. Billions are coming to Connecticut. Okay, yes, it's being spent, but the point my making is that there are many programs available for, and you can do some pieces too. We'll identify that. Maybe do this first. Maybe do this over here. We do pieces. There's funding from the federal highway, SS4A funding, there's CMAQ funding. There's lots of funding from the state. There's OPM funding, there's TOD funding. There's so many funding mechanisms available. I'm not guaranteeing funding, but I'm saying there are opportunities are there for projects to pursue funding altogether in pieces, in phases. Those programs are, and now is the time to do it. Meaning, the next 2, 3, 4 years. The program ends in 5 years, but now is the time to hit the funding well while it's full of money. So did I answer all the questions? Funding? Yeah, is that all? Yeah, the question about so timing. So if we finish the study, it said a couple months, get it done, it goes back to the council, and they say, you know what? You give recommendations, we're gonna pursue funding for this, we're gonna pursue funding for this. So start pursuing the funding, put in the application for funding for whatever source you're going after. And so these smaller things, these can be done in chunks. These can be done sooner, a couple of years. Something like this is a bigger, this requires DOT, this requires the political discussions, potentially the bridges as well. So that's a little bigger fish, if you will. But you can do some pieces and do it fairly quickly, 2, 3 years for a piece of that.
Also would like to offer a comment or ask a question. Hi, would you like me to come to you? No.
So, like where, the aqueduct,
Oh, the viaduct, yes, ma'am,
okay,
right here, excuse me.
keep going. And is there more than that?
This is the limit of the project, pretty much, right here.
So as around the corner and up Connecticut too, like where the, the new hotel is, next to the post office.
That's up here on Main Street, right here.
Have y'all thought about doing a roundabout there, because the traffic, yes. It's backed up there and just kind of going to the line, goes to the line. That will keep traffic moving.
I just came back from Scotland and they were talking about everyone.
I go a lot of time in the UK, a couple of trips a year for work, and I have probably in this room combined the more roundabouts than 40 years of travel. And I can tell you that sitting in on the other meetings on 82, there is not a lot of thought given to pedestrians crossing as they do in the UK with controlled crossing lights and controlled traffic lights at roundabouts during peak rush hour traffic. But I want to go back to option one. I understand option one correctly. As you cross that bridge coming from downtown heading west, the view to the right is a water treatment plant. And based on the picture you showed, the view to the left is the top of the parking garage. But I'd like to understand how that translates to a tourist destination. Now, there are places where bridges are tourist destinations. It gives beautiful bridge spanning the Hudson River. We have river views on those things. But not here where it's a water treatment plant in one direction and a traffic parking lot in the other, and a bus station. I'm not sure how that translates to a, will this now come to Norwich and see our roundabouts? Is that going to be our new marketing strategy? Because you're telling us there's 3 or 4 roundabouts here connected with 4 to 6 to 8 roundabouts going out of town. And the tourist destination will be a bridge that looks over a sewage treatment. Okay. Oh, by the way, on funding, I work in government contracting. Funding may be available now. But tell me how funding will be available next election cycle, 5 election cycles, 10 election cycles. I work in the nuclear industry. I understand about government funding on projects. I will tell you that that money is not always available.
Thank you very much. Very, very apt comment about what's on either side of West Side Boulevard today. I still love the vision. Think trellises.
Which you block. You block.
And the transportation center isn't quite that, looking down at the top of it isn't very attractive, but I was up on the.
Picture, the picture shows.
Right. We can't change that. We're not, at this point, we can't move the transportation center. So that's a great comment. I also, we discussed among our staff, one other thought I had, and I think I told Joe, you know, that's a long span. And you might have a pedestrian up there at night who might feel uncomfortable. So that, if it ever happened, you'd have to make it a safe place. People would have to feel welcome up there. They would have to feel they might not get stuck up there or accosted by somebody. It would have to be well lit. Those are all great thoughts you brought up. And you're totally accurate about funding. You know, I've been in government planning, transportation planning for, I don't want to tell you how long, almost 50 years. And I've seen down cycles, up cycles, but we still have to do our planning while we do it. And then hope we can.
There's funding available today. But this project is not today's money. It's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4 years.
You're very, very accurate, sir. Thank you. Anybody else? Please. Yeah.
And regarding, and my other name is Negative Nelly, that's what they call me. Yes, when they're being kind, but when you're talking about the pedestrian bridge and other things, I don't know how much time you've spent in Norwich. We have a significant problem here in the panhandlers. So if you're gonna have a pedestrian bridge, how are you going to prohibit or preclude or whatever the word is? Well, what if people decide that they don't want to be here anymore and they want to jump off the pedestrian bridge. And somebody chuckled at this, we had a situation not too long ago where a person tried to do that. So what aspect of the public safety has taken into that consideration? I think the bridge thing is pretty, but I'm a realist and I joke that I'm 81, I won't be here to see this project completed, so.
First of all, I hope you are, and I hope this project is completed. It's the last one I'm working on professionally for the COG, so it means a lot to me personally. Great comment on the bridge. As Joe said, this is a concept plan at this point. If and when that option were chosen, when the engineers designed the bridge, they had to consider public safety. There are, my recollection is, I'm trying to think of how high the abutment is now on the bridge. Can anybody that travels that way every day tell me, as I recall, it's taller than me.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So it'd probably be difficult for somebody who wanted to hurt himself to jump today, nor would they want to go up there with the speeding traffic today. But if it's a pedestrian bridge, that will attract more people to the bridge, so that is something we have to consider. That's a great thought. Regarding folks going up there and you know, folks that are in need and just hanging out at the bridge. Unfortunately, that's the problem we have throughout our urban centers in the United States. I mean, everybody, my thought would be, and I don't know which is a welcoming place, would be welcome there, but for the right reasons, not to bother other people. Yes, sir. Hello. Great.
Hello, my name's Evan. First and foremost, I also love the project. My knee-jerk reaction was I love the idea of the rich flowers, but I do understand, like, you said that there are a lot of problems. Well, namely the wastewater treatment plant that you're gonna have full view of. But I thought that was kind of like fully answered by option number 2. I think option number 2 brings that pedestrianized area right here at the park. You have a beautiful view of the marina. You have the river view going, or the river walk going right through. And I think that would be a much better place to have a town hall or a town square, right? Thank you.
I should note, and I think we mentioned it at the earlier public meeting a few months ago or in the fall. That wasn't our idea, it wasn't the consultant's idea. Chief Daly from Norwich Police Department asked us to look at that. So I want to give him the credit. I think Chief Daly has been, you know, he's been a very important part of this project, commenting from a public safety point of view. But it was his thought that that might create a better link for pedestrians and cyclists between downtown and transportation center. We hear all the time, well, transportation center is nice, but it's over there. Too long. This would enhance your walk, make it maybe a little more pleasant. You might a little more connected downtown. We would hope people be using. I'll point out, problems, every option has concerns that we have to address. Concerns here would be, are we impacting the automobile access to the marina and to the that's something we have to look at. You could actually get there, but only one direction. So we want to make sure those property owners are well versed on the plan. We'd like to hear from them. I know the city was going to reach out to Mr. Thayer, and maybe we're still working on that. So it doesn't cut off access to them. It just allows you to get there from one direction. You can only get there from one direction today, though. So it's I think it's probably sellable. I think it's a good idea. Here.
Yeah, I guess.
Great.
Multiple times, the isolation that they have encountered over the years has always been an issue for them. And now you're locking it in stone. And the fact that we're looking at redoing the marina, we have new operators, I would not want to limit access to either one of those sites. But the Thayer has made it very clear to me over the years, the father, who's no longer with us, and son, grandson's access to that site is improved and increased I believe would still be appreciated.
And maybe that can be done with option two. I think we need, I still think we can provide him great access better than he has today with option two. Of course, option three includes automobile access to anybody along West Main Street at that location, but doesn't do as much for pedestrian and cyclists, so trade-offs are gonna have to be made. More pizza. Please take some with you. I want to thank Bridget Moriarty from BN Engineers, our sub-consultant, for going out of the way to buy the drinks and buy the pizza for us, so. Yes, this is Amanda Kennedy, Executive Director of the Council of Governments. Thank you.
Yes.
So if you have comments after this meeting, there's several ways you can get them to us. We did have a sheet here you can sign and leave your email, and we are going to provide updates. We have our website, both, you can find it on the City of Norwich website, you can find it on NCDC's website, and you can find it on the Council of Governments website, link to the project study website. And you can leave us comments there, and my email address is up there, and you can email them to me. I'll even tell you what it is right now, if you want to write it down. It's JBUTLER@S, as in Southeastern, ECCOG.org. Or you can call me, 860-889-2324, extension 112. The other ones, if you got comments to your city officials, they'll pass them on to us as well. We would ask that you get us comments over the next, what do we have, 30 days? Couple weeks.
Couple weeks would be better, yeah.
Let's say, what's today? Today's June 5th?
Yeah.
Give me a date. June 5th, 6th, 7th.
Okay.
June 21st?
Sure.
Friday?
Hmm.
But if something comes in after that and if we have the ability to include it in our work, we'd be happy to do that. Just for future schedule, the Technical Advisory Committee is meeting next week. They will try to provide some guidance as to which of the three options west of Washington Square seem to work the best. We're going to meet with the City Council in July. Can't remember the date.
July 15th.
July 15th at 6:30 p.m. in the council chambers, special meeting just for the council to receive the concluding wrap up of the mapping. Then the consultant's going to put pen to paper sometime in the early fall, deliver a report to the the Council of Governments, which we will then present to the City of Norwich. We'll present to the funding agency, the Department of Transportation. At that point, the staff, the COG will work with the city staff and will eventually request a meeting with DOT. When and if we get to that point, it's called a pitch meeting. You go and pitch your corridor study project to the DOT. And that's when DOT starts telling us whether or not they might fund certain aspects of the project, which the next step would be start designing some of this. Is there anybody else that'd like to comment, ask a question? Yes, sir.
Question. Have we been addressed, really about option two, we have the roses in the area, which I'll say, there's a utility access or right away along that side of the bridge. It's quite a nice storage you're gonna have everything on that bridge. I don't know if that's been considered. That's all.
Are you referring to the water, is that a water line pad? Temporary pipe that's running across, that's supposed to be removed. It's one now. Okay.
My question is, has anybody looked at the response time for the ambulance service, fire department, and the police? Compared to all three options that you have available, anybody check that?
If not, we will.
We have not measured that yet. Great question. The option 2 that we're talking about, came from the police chief, and we sent it to the police chief by closing this off to traffic. So option 2 is just access, Hollyhock Island from the west. Just close off the vehicle and pedestrian. We said, well, chief, that may be an issue. He said, Joe, the fire department's right here. So access for Hollyhock Island is from the fire station here. In terms of it, the overall project, don't anticipate impacts to access here. But great question on one way, 3 lanes, going to one way here, teeing off here, and this being 2-way. So we have not done any measurements of travel time for them. But every project starts with emergency vehicle access and working with emergency responders on these ideas of improvements. Same thing for roundabouts. They actually like the roundabouts, because traffic's flowing versus coming to a signal, stopping what we're doing. So we have, in terms of roundabouts themselves, they were very well with emergency vehicles. But the 1-way, 2-ways have not met with them and talked about the travel time that is resultant. And that's the conundrum, if you will. You're trying to slow traffic down, right? Trying to slow cars down, but not impede life safety and emergency vehicles. That's the balance you gotta figure out how to make this work. At the same time, slowing it down for pedestrians and bicyclists and all for your road users, but not stopping, not delaying significantly emergency vehicle access through those same roads. That's your challenge. That's a challenge for us and working with the emergency services. Just real quick on the, I can't help but respond to it. You know, the idea of the Bridge of Roses wasn't for the view per se from the bridge. Okay, that wasn't even necessarily the vision we had. We're engineers. We're not landscape architects ourselves. Dan and myself on here. Okay, agreed. So we looked at in terms of what can you do with them. A benefit is if there's a view, great. But we didn't look at it in terms of the bridge, is it viewed onto the city per se? It was really, what can we do with this bridge? Make this an activity area. Make this a activity area, things you can do on that bridge from the roses, from a jogging path, the bicycles, vendors, or maybe or food trucks down here. That was the idea. That was the idea. Sure. On the bridge. Sure, well, the bridge to the west. That I'm going to go up and point. Can you repeat the question? Couldn't hear it.
The question is, have we given thought to what happens when you leave the bridge? How do pedestrians and cycles continue on to other points in the city? And I imagine you would be interested to know how it would go in either direction. So the turquoise is a suggested bicycle path, a dedicated bicycle path. The orange is suggesting pedestrian sidewalk, think concrete sidewalk. So as you can see here, when you go to the west, toward West Main Street, you would go pedestrians and cyclists could go around the roundabout and then get on a new bike lane on either side of Route 82 West Main. The vision here is we're thinking ahead. We know that the Route 82 project is going ahead. There's continuing discussions with the city as to how and when that might work. And I think the thought is to make Route 82 safer too, not only for automobiles, but for pedestrians and cyclists. So we're thinking the state and the city will put some type of pedestrian bicycle access out here to the west. I think Norwich wants to become a more walkable, bicycle-oriented city. To the northeast, you would connect to Washington Street. Again, we're showing conceptual sidewalks and bike lanes continuing up Route 2 to Washington Street toward the hospital. There's a really good sidewalk network as you come now, up Washington Street, all the way up past the 230 connect. And I'm interested to tell you how common this was. I think I said at the outset that we will have the recording of this meeting on our website, if not tomorrow, maybe by the end of the week. And we are going to ask, Mr. Baus and Mr. Ernst to put the maps on the website and the presentation. Slide presentation. So feel free to look at it in your own time, share it with your friends and your neighbors. We've tried really hard to get the word out that we're working on the study. A few weeks ago, we did what Dan described as a walkabout through downtown Norwich, through the project there. We knocked on, went into businesses, we met people on the street. We had a tent set up in Howard Brown Park that people stopped at and spoke to us. So we're trying to get the word out. This is, again, as I said, it's your project. It's not the Council of Governments. We're just the recipient of the grant funds to allow us to hire a consultant to work for the city. I really want to thank you for coming out on a nice evening when you could be doing other things. That's great. So if no one else has anything, I will thank you. I'll thank the city for allowing us to host the meeting here. And, please take pizza or a drink home. I'm not sure I've ever been applauded or been a part of a team that was applauded in a public meeting. Thank you. Tremendous.